Back it. Marvelous stuff. Okay. Go across. Yeah. Back it. Great. That's live. Hello, everybody who's joining us. Welcome, welcome, welcome. Lovely to see some familiar faces again. Nice to see you all. I hope you're ready to enjoy another great chat. And please feel free to ask questions. Hi, Regina. Please, honestly, feel free to ask questions. Throw some questions in there. I'm always monitoring the chat and the Q&A, so I will try and weave them in. But let's get started. Okay. So, hello and welcome to season 10 of Mundane to Magical Online Summit. My name is Louise Matson, and as always, I'm truly blessed to be your host. We're reaching the close of this season's summit, and it feels like no time at all when Peter kicked the summit off on his live call on Monday. And so today is the penultimate call, and a live call where we meet and bid welcome to another brand new speaker to the show. Today, I'm so happy to be joined by the wonderful Jade Cruz. Jade is a documentary filmmaker who stopped working due to a black magic spell that was placed upon her by a jealous person. Now, this spell affected her entire life in reality for 17 years. And during this time, she experienced the effects of how energy can be used to stop someone from rising and evolving their potential. How energy can be used to reverse growth. These days, it's easy for people to discuss empowerment and consciously awaken to the law of attraction, but very few people are ready to acknowledge that energy, simply being neutral, can be manipulated to cause harm. Now, Jade feels blessed that her experience has brought her to work with many of the great ascended masters who have awoken her power and enabled her to be in the place that she is today. And I'm truly grateful for that as well. Now, Jade's topic for the show today is black magic. You don't know how capable you are and what you really can achieve until you're broken. And I know this to be true from my own personal life experiences, as I'm sure many of you out there can empathize with as well. Now, this may not be a topic that everyone feels completely comfortable discussing. However, I've always known that it's an essential part of energy management and consciously being the divine creator beings that we are here, that we take full responsibility for the energy that we not only allow to influence us, but that we use to influence others. So the energy that we let in and the energy that we radiate out into the collective. As I mentioned before we went live, feel free to ask the questions and put them in the chat and the Q&A on the Zoom, and I will endeavour to weave them into the conversation as well as I can. So let's get started. It's with great pleasure and honour that I welcome you to the show, Jade.
Hi, Lou. Thanks for having me. And I have to say, it's great to be able to talk about this because it's not the norm. And, you know, so many people shy away from this subject. So many people don't want to talk about it. They're still stuck in their, what I call law of attraction bubble. And it's like, you know, stop it right there before it expands, that it becomes too fearful and I can't cope with it. So I'm quite happy to just live in my backyard. But unfortunately, you know, if you really want to wake up and you want to grow, this is stuff that you absolutely need to know. And it's all energy, all of it. You know, we're not living in just a bubble of energy. The whole universe is energy. So yeah, great topic.
No, I'm really pleased. I mean, I always trust Spirit brings the perfect speakers with the perfect message or transmission to the audience at the perfect time. And what better time to be talking about something like this when we have seen so much manipulation and control being used on a collective level.
Terrible.
Through the television sets, through you know, the government broadcasts and things like that over the last few years. It's been really quite in our faces. but again, everything happens for a reason, and it's perfectly divinely timed for this to be so in our face. And so I do think that it's a topic for discussion that gets to be had openly in the collective, because as I said, for me, it's an essential part of energy management, basically being an energetic being here in this physical reality. So just getting into the topic, I just wondered if you wanted to share as much or as little as you choose of your own personal journey.
Yeah, sure.
Your own personal experience.
Yeah, sure. So I only have my experience. I've never met anyone else who's been under the black magic I've been under is the kind of voodoo black magic where they put pins in you, they make a little effigy of you. And literally they did that with me and put me on a rubbish site. And I didn't know at the time what happened. But my life was completely affected, and it doesn't just affect your life. It trickles into your friends, your family, everything. And I went from being a very successful professional person in my until my late 20s, and then literally not being able to work, not being able to create good friendships, relationships, being homeless, not being able to have an income. And what happens is it actually goes down. So you de-evolve, your energy goes backwards. And it's very difficult to explain that to people because it's not something you see visually, but you experience it. It's incredibly confusing, frustrating. You don't know where to go for help. People think you're mad. So yeah, that's what happened. I mean, it's 17 years. I mean, I could tell you, I could sit down for 17 hours and talk about it, but that is what happened. And then eventually I did come out of it. Very difficult to come out of a spell when you don't know you're under a spell. But I did come out of it through a series of, there was always a part of me which obviously knew something was not right. So towards the end, I was looking for a lot of divine support through different healers and things like that. But eventually I realized it came from myself, and my timeline actually was shifted. I had a couple of very important and significant interventions, one with the archangels, and my timeline moved. And it got me to a point where I could receive some very strong support. And, one layer of the spell was removed, then another layer. It doesn't happen all at once. And it really wasn't until, let's say, 2 years ago, perhaps, that I fully came out of it. So I'm still in the recovery process, to be honest. It's like any trauma. You don't just wake up out of it. My whole career was affected. You come out and you're like, well, where do you start? What do you do? You can't go back to where you were because time's moved on.
Yeah.
But you also don't have any structure around you to move on. So it's very difficult. Very difficult.
So the intervention that you received through the archangels, was that like a direct, one-to-one with you and the archangels, and connecting in, doing kind of self-healing, or was that through a third party?
No, it was. I basically had an apparition, or I was visited by Archangel Sandalphon, who appeared literally in front of me. There were no words, but there was something happened. They sort of blinked these eyes at me. It an appearance that, it's not a dream, something's really there.
Yeah.
Very, very real. And it's quite a long story, because actually there are a couple of events which kind of link together, and honestly I can't really remember what they were now, because it was quite a while ago. But I didn't realize who it was that stood in front of me. It was this kind of it looked like Robin Hood. So it was huge, green, beautiful robbing hair, these incredible shining eyes, and I sort of thought, what is Robin Hood doing here in the middle of the day in my living room, my friend's living room? And it was just staring at me, and I kind of just looked away and looked again, and it was still there, but then it went, and that was it. And it took me about 10 days to realize it was the Archangel Sandalphon, because what happened then was I was online. I don't know how, but I was guided to look at archangels, and the exact image of that hologram which I saw in the room popped up onto Google, and it told me Archangel Sandalphon. I mean, so bizarre to see an image of an archangel dressed in those clothes, but
yeah. But I mean, again,
really,
divinely timed and divinely inspired to go and actually get that validation that it wasn't just something that you kind of made up, or you had.
And I'd forgotten about it, Lou. It was 10 days later, and I had forgotten about it, and it was literally, I was online, and I thought, oh my God, that is exactly who visited me. There were a couple of other close events. I can't remember what they are now, but yeah.
One of the things that is coming through, because I mean, as I was saying just before we came on live, from a healing perspective, I've always specialized in extraction, and particularly from a shamanic perspective, I deal with a lot of extraction work, complex extraction, moving into curse work. So it's all around the removal of that which shouldn't be there, that which is in your field for whatever reason, whether it's been placed consciously by another person, as it was in this case, or whether it's just that unconscious collective and lower vibrational energy that we absorb when we don't appreciate who we are as energy beings, and we're just kind of walking around being this open sponge. But you were saying that, it kind of predominantly got worse and worse and deeper. So when the healing process occurred, it was kind of like a layer at a time.
Yeah.
And that's because of the length of time that it had been within your field. Because what I have found is that if something is there, if that had been caught, a week, 2 weeks, a month after the original spell had been cast, the curse had been laid, it would probably have been able to have been completely taken out in one piece. But because it had gone for so long, it kind of grows. It kind of becomes a thing in and of itself. Because what I've seen a lot of is a buildup of lower vibrational energy or something can develop into a consciousness of itself, and so you're then dealing in a way with something that has a consciousness.
It was a consciousness, because we're at nearing towards the end, we had to remove the consciousness of the spell. That was the last piece remaining. Interesting.
Yeah. So I mean, one of the key things for me really does come back, and you were talking about this lack of self-governance that the majority of people in the collective have, and that is a big part of spiritual evolution for me. I've kind of been shown by spirit we're as a collective, and it has nothing to do with age, but we're toddlers. We're coming in as kind of energetic toddlers. No idea of who we are. We're not taught about who we are, what our potential is, what energy is, and the fact that everything is energy. And therefore, this process of spiritual evolution is this process of kind of growing up and reclaiming reclaiming our governance, self-governance, our ability to self-govern, and our sovereignty. And you were saying along the same lines. Is there anything more that you want to add or share about that?
Yeah, I mean, it is, you do grow up. You can't not grow up. You know, this happened to me in this way. It was very dramatic, very traumatic. Okay. But what I can say through the experience is that I absolutely am responsible for my energy. I am sovereign in my energy. I'm in my power. I know what my influence is. I know how to influence others. I know I can be influenced by others. And I know that everything is power and energy. I know that. And I know my lines. I'm discerning. I know where I am. And the biggest thing is you know how not to be fearful or be intimidated or put into fear or controlled by anything. And that is massive in this society, because everybody, okay, even if we're on the spiritual path, most people have no idea about personal authority at all. It's not something we even realize we have necessarily. You know, unfortunately, we are, you know, in a controlled mass system, but the people who control us know about personal authority. But you know, nobody even questions whether the law is ethical. Is the law ethical? No. Is it moral? No. Does it represent me? No. But you know, in the system, people would say, well, you're British, you come under British law. Things like that. I mean, you know, we could get bigger and bigger, but we have no idea of our power at all. We're not treated with any power. That's the reason.
Yeah, and again, you know, going back to that kind of, we're spiritual toddlers, and in the societal, particularly in Western society anyway. So that's all I can speak to, because that's what I've incarnated into in this lifetime. We give the children no authority. Yeah, exactly. No authority whatsoever. And so, you know, there's no blame or shame, or there's no judgment about it. You know, we're all starting from that same standpoint, because we've all incarnated into that same space where, you know, we're taught to hand over our power to everybody else. You know, we're taught that the authority is outside of us, and whether that be a religious authority or anything else, you know, your parents, schools, teachers, the government, you know, everything, it's all out there. That's what has the power to create the rules in which we abide by and live by, and nobody's ever asked to go inside and feel into, you know, what feels right for them. Where's my boundaries? Where's my lines in the sand? And so for me, I know this was an awful experience at the time, and it probably felt horrendous, as a lot of my experiences have at the time. But for me, they're an absolute blessing. Yeah. You know, when you come out the other side. Yeah. Because although, in a way, yes, you can't go back, and you can't go back to being a successful documentary maker and things like that, because time has moved on the linear plane. But also, you can't go back to being that vulnerable to that form of energy invasion. Exactly. In your field. Yeah. So it, you know, it's like that thing, what doesn't kill you makes you stronger. Yeah, exactly. It's funny, because sometimes, you know, I think for me, I don't know anyone that's been through the same thing. So it's very hard to explain to people the depth of it and the trauma that goes with it. Because, I mean, I wouldn't love to meet someone who's been through it, not at all, because it's awful. But I'm on my own, you know. It's dark. People, I mean, people say to me, "Was it the dark night of the soul?" And I know, no, my dear. Like, a dark night of the soul is a drop
I was in the full ocean.
Mm.
So yeah, but boy, does it make you strong.
Mm.
Absolutely, totally agree with you there, 100%.
So Louise is saying we are taught to live in fear and that we have no power. Absolutely. I mean, the best way to control anybody is to diminish them, is to not even enable them to acknowledge who they truly are. So I mean, we're brought up with so many different layers of distraction, and also energetically a lot of things that are designed specifically to keep us dumbed down, to keep our energies low or in a state of perpetual illness, so that we are open to infiltration from an energetic perspective, as it were, or we just don't feel strong enough to kind of stand in our power because we're constantly kind of trying to get on an even keel, as it were. But she's also asked a great question. How do you protect yourself against this?
Well, my experience is that it's not random. I actually put my fingerprint on something, so I was conscious. It wasn't that something was done to me and I had to protect myself. I consciously did something and I could have actually not done it. So my answer would be, which I say to a lot of people, is be discerning before you do something, and feel it through. I was fearful when I was asked to put my finger on there. I did it because I was intimidated and I didn't believe it could have any power over me. So, and yet it had tremendous power. So just, don't do anything if you're worried or anxious or it makes you feel always do think something that you feel comfortable doing. And I know people do say, do the uncomfortable, right, in a different way, to move forward. But if you genuinely fear and are frightened in a situation, just stay back. I personally don't know if I believe in protection. I don't take on that belief system.
Yeah.
To be honest, I think when you're in your power, you're in your power. Ain't no one coming in here, I think it's more of an issue when if you think you need protection, then there is an insecurity there, and it would be best to look at the insecurity and take that off. That's the root cause.
Absolutely. I mean, for me, I agree completely with you. I don't like the word protection in that. For me, it's a bit like forgiveness and protection. It means that there's something that we need to protect ourselves again, or we need to forgive.
Oh, I love that you said that about forgiveness, because I say that too, and sometimes I feel so awful saying that, but yeah, true. I agree with you with that too. Yeah.
I mean, the thing for me is everything is perfect and in perfect timing. I absolutely know that to be a truth for me. I'm not saying that will resonate with everybody, but this is my truth, and that for me is the key thing. Know your truth.
Yeah,
absolutely. When you know yourself and you know your truth, that being swayed by someone else, when you've got that little alarm bell inside yourself going, hang on a minute, I'm not quite so sure I want to do this. And so for me, it is being clear, being a clear channel to yourself, knowing your truth. And then within that, it's having your firm boundaries, and there you don't need any protection. If you're in your power, you know your truth. And it's like within yourself, this does feel like yes, this doesn't feel like a yes. And then you take your action in alignment with that, regardless of who is saying something outside of you or what is being said outside of you. Because it's that ability to say, my truth may be different to your truth, but they're equal. Your truth doesn't override mine. Your truth doesn't have any power over mine, just like no one has any power over me. Whenever anything occurs within us, it's because there's an element of us that's allowed it to take place. And that may be that it's a perfect part of our journey. As this has been a perfect part of your journey because you're now solid.
Solid as a rock. Yeah. Yeah.
But yeah, it's the same for me with forgiveness, because if everything is perfect and perfect timing, then there's nothing to forgive.
Yeah, I agree. Totally agree with that word. That's another controversial word, but I think I put it in my book. I don't believe in forgive. Forgive yourself for what? It's the love that you just need to have, and that, we all do things that may not be right. But it's forgives a funny one. But I want to just add to what the speaker said just now, the person who asked the question. I think also knowledge is a big one. It's like there is power outside also that it can be used against you. So I think also and I don't want you to be fearful when I say this, but it's just like knowledge is everything. We have suppressed knowledge, which is also why I had myself in this situation. Did I realize that there could be such a powerful thing as someone being able to put magic and sorcery over me? I didn't really believe it was possible, but actually it is. So I think we do have to wake up that, they're not like knowledge, power can be used, energy can be used negatively. Just can be.
Well, I mean, energy itself is neutral.
Exactly.
And energy just is. It's neither good, bad, right, wrong.
Yeah.
But it's the intent with which it's used. It's the intention behind the action. It's the intention behind something. And a lot of people are quite fearful of standing in their power. And one of the biggest blocks to standing in our power is fearful of, when I'm in my power, I'm going to do something bad with it.
Yeah.
And that's a lot, because in previous lifetimes, which unfortunately are still open to us as kind of memory signatures throughout our field, and we're literally carrying all this baggage around with us, that we have we have done something in a previous lifetime. It doesn't mean to say that if you stand in your power in this lifetime that you're going to be doing the same thing, because you are a different divine map. You've got a different blueprint in this lifetime. But it's that ability to fully acknowledge, I have the power to do this, and I have the power to not, and it's my conscious choice. And that it is all about that awareness and knowledge of who we are as energetic beings, as everything being energy. Thought is a powerful energy.
We've got to eliminate mass ignorance in this world. Sorry, that there's so much ignorance which is being used against us. But yes, I agree with you.
Again, that taps into that I don't want to know, I don't want to take responsibility. And I can hold my hand up to that, because that was a part of my journey. I used to say I had ostrich moments where I'd stick my head in the sand. And my bum
don't want to know. Let's stay here for a few days. I can resonate with that also, and it's interesting, because I think that this is a step in the spiritual journey, isn't it? It's like, okay, we can start with the small bit, the law of attraction. When it gets a bit shaky and everything else, it's like, oh, I don't want to know. But then you don't grow. Stay where you are then, but responsibility and understanding that there is a cause and effect in everything you do. And you are responsible for yourself. The universe is not responsible for you. I have had this thing where I've been, the universe will look after me. Universe will look after me. Certain extent, it's okay as a belief system for a bit. You believe it, so you attract it, blah blah. But if you're not knowledgeable about the bigger stuff, it doesn't carry you that far. I mean, it's like gravity. There is a law. I can't go around saying, oh, gravity's gonna, if I walk off that cliff, the universe will protect me. No, there is a law. There is a law. So I think people don't get that.
Yeah, but I mean, you know, again, I say this with absolute love.
Yeah.
Because we are spiritual toddlers.
Yeah, exactly.
And having been a mother, you know, and brought up a child, we don't berate a child or, you know, the first time they attempt to stand up and they fall on their bum, go, oh, well, that's it then. You know, we are in that toddler state. We're going to make mistakes. We're going to bounce backwards and forwards. It's a process of growing. It's a process of, you know, if at first you don't succeed, try again kind of thing. But the more we practice, and this is from my experience, the more that I practiced being in my truth and being able to determine what that actually feels like for me, knowing what my field feels like when there's nothing else in it, cluttering it up, then it's so much easier when you do come across things within the outer realm, you know, whether it's through the television or something somebody's saying or someone's asking you to do something, that you can go, oh, hang on a minute, no, actually that doesn't actually resonate with my field. And then it just takes that courage, and it is courage that is required, because, you know, it's kind of like if you imagine you're a child standing up to an adult and saying no, that's a big scary thing to do, but that's basically what this process is that we go through. There's a question in the Q&A that say, thank you for sharing your story. I experienced something very similar after some traumatic events. I lost all my power and became the opposite of all that I used to be. I did a lot of work, but I'm still not what I truly am. Any insights? Do you have any insights on how to move timelines and take back my power?
Oh, okay. So, sorry to hear that. Yeah, and it's quite difficult when I don't know the trajectory or how it started. And I'd be quite happy to have a chat with you if you wanted to afterwards. But you know, it's a process of complete deep inquiry into yourself. You know, and it's probably not the answer you want to hear, because it sounds like you've done a lot of healing, but it is so true that the more you go in, the more you clear and clear and clear and clear, you absolutely get that clarity, which is what you were saying, Lou, about then being able to notice immediately when something's off. And unfortunately, when we are on these journey where things are not going right and we're trying to shift our timelines, what we have to do really is try to come back to the center as much as possible. Meditation, you know, if you can get to that point. But I mean, I do recognize it, but it's incredibly difficult, because I know I couldn't meditate. There's so much chaos in your head. But yeah, I mean, I'd have, you know, if you'd like to share it with me afterwards, I could, you know, probably give you some tips. But yeah, it's a bit difficult when I don't know the story. Yeah.
It's nothing there. It's nothing there. It's the trouble when you've got dogs on a live call, I'm afraid.
They love to be in on these things, though, pets, don't they?
They do, yeah. And I think probably because of the conversation, the topic of conversation, they're on high alert.
Oh.
I think one of the key things, I mean, I was saying before before we went live, that I recently, I mean, you know, I've been doing this work for many years. Extraction, you know, is my work. Curse unraveling, all that stuff. It's the stuff that I do. But where I walk the dogs, I didn't know this at the time. Somebody told me about a week or so afterwards. somebody had died, and I'd been walking the dogs, and she jumped into me. Basically, the soul of that person had jumped into me. Now, I knew something was up because I was suddenly craving Maltesers. I'm dairy intolerant. I have been for years. I don't eat chocolate, and I certainly wouldn't eat something that was made by one of those companies. So what I found was, like, I needed to have Maltesers. So I knew something was up. So I asked for help. I reached out to a friend, and I got that cleared out of my field. Sometimes we can't do everything ourselves. Now, I know you had a divine intervention, and sometimes it does occur that, you know, when we're really at the bottom, that, you know, spirit does step in, our universal self, because, you know, the archangels, the angels, the dragons, whatever you connect with, it's you in those vibrational spaces beyond this incarnated template. But I knew something was off because I know the vibration of my field, and I know when there's something not quite right. Now, the thing is not kind of allowing that to get a foothold, and not to ignore that, but actually to do something in those moments and reach out and get it cleared out of your field. We can't always do the clearing for ourselves.
No, you can't. Yeah. Yeah.
And so, you know, if you, I recognize that we do an awful lot of work, but if there is still something there, if there is still something, you know, going and having that third party to kind of just check in and have a look see, you know, when you've been scanning your field and not picking something up, that's always really helpful as well. Because the minute I got that cleared, all the addictions stopped. You know, my desire for Maltesers has ended. And yes, there are other chocolates out there. Let's have a look at the questions. So Louisa's saying, I had an attachment because my heart was open to a tragic death. The soul entered me and I had to get a shamanic work done to release it. And it was suggested that I protect myself as I'm an open channel. Yeah, I mean, the thing is, like I say, we're toddlers and we're learning and growing. So we are going to make mistakes. So it's not beating yourself up if something like this happened. I didn't beat myself up because I allowed that lady to jump into my field. It is what it is. And sometimes it happens. And I always have the attitude of, oh, that's really interesting. You know, why did that happen? Why did I allow that to happen? So there's always a lesson and a blessing in whatever happens to us, and it's allowing us to get into that neutral state. Would you agree with that?
Yeah, I mean, I used to have a lot of soul attachments when I was under the spell, and in my personal experience, I think my vibration was low, you know, and I know I attracted a lot of fear-based attachments. I mean, I had them for years, and I didn't realize I even had them till somebody cleared them, and actually, some of these soul attachments, they were in my dreams, so I recognized the souls. I knew what happened, and then when the person cleared them, they described them exactly. You know, I knew them already, and they'd just been with me. I didn't realize they were attachments, but I think, in my experience, they have come to me when my vibration's been low and off. I wasn't able, I mean, I know I haven't had any attachments since I've sort of, you know, I mean, now I'm much more powerful in my field. So, I mean, I think now if I attract things, it's probably a higher vibrational energy or frequency or something like that. But when I clear attachments from other people, they kind of then just tended to pick them up in a park or you know, in the tube or something like that, where there was a tendency for these souls that didn't pass over, and that they kind of got stuck in those areas in a more dense environment.
Yeah, I mean, one of the things, and I know going back to what Louise said, when, her heart is open, obviously, a traumatic event, your heart's open, you're in a vulnerable position. And that's the thing. It's like having the
Yeah.
awareness of yourself as an energy being. And if you are experiencing something that's literally ripped you open, you've gone through a traumatic experience, whether it's a physical incident, whether it's an emotional incident,
Yeah.
you're in that state of vulnerability. So having that awareness, and you can, in those spaces, it's like keeping your heart open, but not your field open.
Mm.
So there's a difference. It's like allowing your heart to be open so that you can fully express your grief. You can fully connect into the situation that's going on, but not opening the doors and windows and being that completely open vessel. So I see it as being a clear channel. So the column of light comes down through you from the pure source field and goes down into the pure source field of the planetary consciousness. But the incarnated light body, the boundary of that outer boundary is
the boundaries still always,
is solid. Now, as I say, I let a wanderer come in, but I think in a way I've also got a contract to say I will assist you.
Okay, yeah. So moving on to the light. So you probably you probably do have an energy where it's like, okay, I can handle it. I know what they are, and they'll come to you, and in order for them to be able to get to the light. Yeah.
Because I'm very drawn. I love graveyards. I'm very drawn to what I find them very peaceful places. Yeah. And I know a lot of empaths come with me on a walk, and they're like, oh my God, there's queues of people. Oh my God, how can you do this? And to me, it's a really peaceful environment. But I'm also at peace in, okay, well, if I pick up a few hitchhikers,
yes,
I can go back and then go, okay, guys,
we're all made for this work.
We can go up. But in those points where you're you're feeling vulnerable, regardless of what the reason is, it's like being super conscious of the boundary of your outer field. So your heart can be open, but your field, all the doors and windows of your house are not open.
Yeah.
It's kind of like making sure your boundaries are
it's a balance, isn't it, Lou? I mean, this is the learning curve of your soul evolution. Stand in your power, have an open heart, have boundaries, be kind, but be straight and clear, balancing all of that energetically. It's you have to experience it to get to that point,
and that's another really good point as well. It's like, don't feel bad if you do pick up attachments, because in a way you kind of have to go through something to be able to recognize it, So again, that there's the reason behind something, and it's not because you've got bad energy management or anything like that. Sometimes it's because, well, actually maybe your work is to assist other people to do that, and therefore you have to kind of go through that experience to recognize it in yourself and recognize it in other people, and to know what to do about it when you do pick up some hitchhikers, which, living in the energetic landscape that we live in,
gosh, they're everywhere.
It's littered. I mean, there are so many lost souls, people who have passed over and have no clue that they've passed over. And they see your bright light because you're doing this beautiful work.
They're
like, oh right, okay, home.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's a massive work. I mean, it's a powerful work. If you're cut out for that, boy, that's big work. That is serious work, and you have to be a very strong person, I think, to do something like that. So yeah, I mean, that's big growth and responsibility.
Yes, absolutely. Yeah, but responsibility without judgment, and that's one of the biggest things in all of this work for me. None of it is with judgment. Judgment only exists within this physical plane anyway. Good, bad, right, wrong, duality, it only exists within the third and lower fourth dimensions. As soon as you get beyond that, there is no judgment. Energy is energy. It's neither good, bad, right, wrong. And so with this work, it's allowing yourself to step into the higher vibrational elements of your own incarnated spectrum.
Yeah.
And let go of any of that judgment that you may hold against yourself.
Yeah.
Because again, that takes a lot of the fear out of the equation. You take the fear out, you can deal with it.
Absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, we are, unfortunately, from when we're born, aren't we? We're fed fear. Keeping your power down, isn't it? So you can't use your power in the right way sometimes when needed, because you don't realize your fear, it's all filtered with fear, isn't it? We have to move through that. I mean, even like this topic we're talking about is great. We can talk about it now with an audience very open to it. But could you imagine having this conversation on the TV or broadcasting live? I mean, talking about soul attachments and all this stuff.
Absolutely. And I know that I can't remember who it was that we were having a conversation about, the transformational shifts and transitioning and death, and, a lot of fear being around death.
Yeah.
And I know when, in the last couple of years when COVID happened and the kind of the amount of people who died that day was streaming across the screen. Well, I've worked in the health field at that point for a couple of decades, and I don't have a fear of death. I'm not connected to this physical body as a one-time deal. I'm very much connected to myself as an eternal being. But I've also been around many people who have passed over and felt the difference. And also been very aware of the extremely beautiful experience that somebody transitioning over and passing over is, especially if you're consciously aware and can assist that person in that journey to get to the right light and therefore not to be a wandering soul. But that in itself, people who weren't, don't have death as something that's very in your face awareness or have a lot of fear around death, they were seeing that tally, and that was just tapping into triggering everybody's fear of death, and therefore becoming more and more able to be controlled and manipulated because your vibration is lowered. You're kind of, it's like all of a sudden the power to your locking mechanism on the outside of your field is reduced, and therefore things can get in. You're more likely to take on that which somebody outside is telling you because your field is bombarded. It can't take anymore. It feels like it's on overload, and you're in that state of I'm just coping with existing now, rather than I'm in my power and I'm living from that space.
Yeah, totally. yeah Well, the system's continuously trying to break us down.
Absolutely. Yeah.
And that's part of it, isn't it? It's it's all everything's fear. Living is fear, death is fear, eat this is fear, watch that is fear, go there it's fear, don't go to this country it's fear. I mean, where does fear not preside in this global economic system?
So I think the person who was saying about their situation has added, said thank you. After a breakup, they moved abroad. Many things changed. The life went upside down. Felt so overwhelmed, and that they just lost themselves. And again, for me, that's very much in that if you look at things as if they're happening to you and you have no control over it, that's when you can lose yourself. It's when you again acknowledge that you are a divine creator being. This is for me, this is my perspective. So if it resonates, great. If it doesn't, let it go. But if you see yourself as a divine creator being, then you acknowledge that you've created that reality. It's like, rejection is God's protection sometimes. I was made homeless, my partner that said the relationship's over, asked me to leave. And I could have been in that space going, oh, this has happened to me, and all of this stuff has happened to me, and I kind of could have lost myself in it. But it was like, even though I felt the emotional pain of what was happening, it's like, okay, well, that's really interesting. You know, I've created this scenario in some way. Whatever was going on in that relationship wasn't entirely right for me anymore, and therefore my universal self has gone, okay, you're not going to act on your own, so boot. We're going to assist you on your own path of evolution. And sometimes that's what happens. And so it's allowing yourself, again, not to go into that diminished state of, this is all happening to me and woe is me. And I'm not saying that in any judgmental way, but taking a step back from that, from a divinely neutral space, and going, okay, so why did I create this? You know, and what's the benefit in it for me ultimately?
Yeah.
Where can I now grow? Because I wasn't able to grow in the situation that I was in. That's why this is happening. Yeah. And I'll hold my hand up. You know, I've stayed in abusive relationships. I'm not saying my last relationship was abusive, but I had previously been in a very abusive relationship, and I stayed there for 15 years. And it wasn't until the universe nudged me down the stairs and I was paralyzed for a week that anything really changed. So sometimes these things, we bring them into our reality because our little human self is going to hold us back so that we can't move forward. So even your experience of having this, you know, this black magic and basically this curse being placed upon you that affected you so negatively, it was a major catalyst. That whole experience has been major catalyst for where you are now, what you're doing, your perspective on life, yourself, and everything.
Yeah, and I mean, also just to add to the answer to the guest, the thing is, you know, when you're then following a trajectory where everything starts going wrong and everything like that, and it, you know, it looks like your life's in mayhem and chaos. One is, it's to stop and take that responsibility over it immediately, as soon as possible. And perhaps, and I'm not saying this is what you've done, but, you know, often, you know, okay, something's happened, then we go away, and that nothing else works out, but we're escaping what happened. And so we're continuing in that traumatic mindset, and we're, you know, having more and more things, more upheavals coming on, more chaos, going further and further away from the root cause. And then everything's a mess. So it probably, you know, I don't know if it's beneficial to ask, well, what is it you are escaping from in the first place? And tackling that, you know, whether it's through some healing with a healer or shadow work, or you know, really grasping that as the only way to kind of really start the healing. So
absolutely, yeah. Anna's saying, interesting what she found, that if her energy is off and she has something else in her space, like an attachment or somebody, she too craves chocolate, and usually she doesn't, because it gives her headaches. And so it's about being aware, and also about asking for the appropriate help. Absolutely. Don't ever be afraid to ask for help. And whether that's your guides and your allies, or the angels and archangels, or whether it's actually, you know, a healer or something, as soon as it comes into my awareness that, you know, there's something not quite right, I put the call out. And because I've been trained in many different healing modalities, I have that support, that I have a group of people that I trust, that I can reach out to. And that's, I mean, we're not alone. That's one of the key things as well.
Yeah.
You know, it can feel very, very lonely being in that space. I imagine you felt very lonely whilst you were going through it.
Yeah, I mean, definitely, because as everyone knows, probably aware on this call, you know, your vibration changes, the people around you change, the circle changes, life changes. You don't maintain that same level. I mean, I went from, you know, having a very successful career and lifestyle and income, seeing all my friends and peers progressing to these massive platforms and great lifestyles, and me being, you know, on income support for 17 years suddenly. You cannot maintain the same level. It is lonely, particularly when you can't explain it and you are wandering in your own chaos every day. Very lonely. Yeah, so it's although I have to say that I am somebody who's very good in my own space in terms of, you know, I enjoy my own company, fortunately, because I don't know if I'd be here otherwise today if I didn't. You know, I do enjoy my own company. Being on my own is not a problem, but it's when you have to constantly analyze your life and who do you talk to about this stuff. Even if it is a healer, they can help you with some techniques and everything, but they're not in your shoes and they haven't been. You know, it's for me, it was such a rare thing anyway. Even convincing your own family. I mean, it's not something that till this day, I don't talk about it with my family. Because they see it and that, you know, I you know, they've heard about it, but it's like I still don't think they totally get it. Or acknowledge it fully. But it's simply because they haven't been conditioned. I mean, they, you know, to talk about and understand this stuff, which if you like, as we're talking in this conversation, unless you've been through something yourself, how can you how does anyone really know what you've been through?
No, absolutely. Which is why it's such an essential part to, as your vibration shifts and changes and you move out of the vibrational sphere of, say, your family and your previous friendships, that you are open in whatever way, whether that's in a physical way or an online. I mean, we're lucky now that we have the web and we have spaces that we can connect with people of a like frequency, like heart, like mind, that you have that space to be able to have those conversations that would be so way out there for the majority of people, because actually just sharing, you know, just being able to verbalize what the bizarre things that are going off for you, it makes you realize that actually, no, it's quite normal from an energetic perspective.
Yes.
To have those experiences or feel in that way, and that this is what it is, as opposed to kind of speaking to somebody who doesn't have any idea.
I totally agree. And also, Lou, you know, I've realized, you know, as I do talk more about my experiences in the last year or two, I have come across others who, you know, have gone through similar journeys, not exactly the same, but there are actually a lot of people who experience some pretty bizarre stuff throughout their lives. I mean, way out there, which, you know, there's no comparison. We all go through something that we ultimately need to grow, and through our own learning curve, if we're on that path where we're like, okay, I'm really going to evolve in this life, like that. And there are others, definitely many, and I mean, I'm not alone in that sense. Absolutely, I agree. You got to speak out, and unless you talk about it, how do you ever get any help, or how does anyone ever know how to help you?
So. Yeah, absolutely. And, you know, connecting in with people of a like frequency, of a like awareness, people who have the awareness that we're not just this physical body having human experience, that there's so much more to us. And that we can be influenced and affected by the energies around us, whether that be on a conscious level or unconscious level. That there isn't that kind of the validation and the understanding for you to have that growth experience. because it's kind of like we get to normalize
Yes.
the unspoken stuff.
Yes, exactly. Very important. Very, very important. Yeah.
So Bavers said, mentioning the law of attraction is just a beginning point. How then can one step forward into self-responsibility of our energy? If the universe isn't responsible for our protection, as it were, then how is saying the universe is all loving fit into this?
I mean, you have to know that every action or every cause has an effect. That's it. I mean, it's pretty straightforward as the universal law. I mean, the universe, cosmic law, is, it's life. It's a life force, and no one has the right to take away another life or to interfere in anyone else's life or harm another life, and that's the responsibility you take. It's universal morality. So if you want to move forward, then you move forward in every action you take. You acknowledge that there's a responsibility in your action. It's not just, okay, you're going to attract something. You're going to go and get it. You're taking action to get something. And if you get it or not, that's your responsibility.
Yeah. And as well, it's for me, it's not, again, we're not giving our power away to something that is outside of us. So even all my guides and my allies, the dragons, everything that I've called upon, Archangel Michael, everything throughout my life that I've called upon is an aspect of me. And so it's kind of like seeing responsibility as the responsibility that I have over my incarnated field, over what I allow into this physical body, this energetic body, and then responsibility from that wider, more divine level. So I'm not saying, universe, do this for me. I'm saying, as my universal self, I will do this for me. I have my own back. I'm not putting that as something, an outside thing.
Exactly.
As this, all being, all knowing.
Yeah, exactly.
It's a co-creation. It's a connection between myself, because we all are that spark.
Yeah. I see. You see, this is the one thing I always tell a lot of students and people around me, is that this law of attraction thing, the biggest problem I have with it is that it presumes you are separate from what you want, right? That it's totally dependent on an exterior force. The law is just a part of what you work with. It's part of your flow, your vibration, your energy. It's you wanting it to give to you. So you just, if you integrate yourself with the law and you understand, I want a car. I don't actually say I want a car. I say I'm having a car. I already have it. I own that already. It is me giving it to me. It's not a separate thing. And I think that's the biggest problem with the law of attraction, is that it seems to be a separate thing.
Yeah, so taking away the middleman, taking away.
Yeah, and also taking away your responsibility in getting it. It's also why I slightly have an issue with, the word hope, right? It's like, you either get it or you don't get it. Okay, fine, you didn't get it next time. This kind of like, possibility or hopefulness, the universe is not like that. Chance doesn't exist in this universe. There is no law that says chance. It's cause and effect. That's it.
Spirit had a bit of a Yoda moment with me a while back, said, do or don't do, there is no try.
Exactly. Exactly. And you know, coming back to what you said about this the universe thing, you know, it's there's that saying, it's, oh, the universe has got my back. You know, I used to say that all the time, actually, before the spell. Yeah, the universe has got your back. You've got to have your own back, just like you said.
As well, I mean, there is also another bit that's coming through about that. It's like, oh yeah, my whole life I have known the universe has got my back. No matter how bad it gets, I am going to be okay. But it is acknowledging that I'm the universe that has my back.
Totally.
But also acknowledging that everything is perfect and in perfect timing. It may not feel pleasant. So the universe has my back, and yet I was paralyzed for a week. But that was the most perfect experience I've ever had in my life, because I grew so much from that experience. So yes, I had my back. Was it a pleasant experience from a human perspective? No, absolutely wasn't. You know, I let go of a marriage, became a single parent, and all sorts of things happened after that. However, in all of those situations leading up to that, I'd been giving my power away here, there, and everywhere, to my parents, to my partner, you know, to my boss, you know, everything. After that, I'd been through the process of reclaiming all of that.
Yeah.
So I knew nobody had any power over me to hurt me. Nobody could make me think or feel anything. So the universe, it will create situations that don't, from an ego perspective, feel like it's got your back at all.
Yeah. And then it swings back round, doesn't it?
And yet it has.
You've got you've got the whole rhythm of life, you know, it does change. Yeah, totally.
Joy is asking, how do you know that your boundaries are okay beforehand, like before going out, for example? How do you know that you're stood in your power?
I think when you know what your power feels like, just like what you were saying, Lou, you know, if you do work with your power and your aura and you are clear, you know how it feels. When you're going out, you know when it's being intervened or pushed. I mean, I often, when I'm on the tube, I'm in London, I can tell. I get on the tube, and if there's someone behind me that feels wrong, I don't care about getting off my seat or moving to the other side of the carriage. The energy's not right. So if you feel off, or you can feel that you're not, you know, there is a push, or someone else's willpower or someone else's influence is coming in, you'll feel it. If you know what your baseline is, you'll feel it. And it is experiential. You know, you have to know what it feels like first to know it's off.
Yeah, I think one of the key things, and I think Joyce also said, you know, do you think that a lot of this, you know, sort of having our power taken away, as it were, comes from past lives where we gave our power away in some way, and now we're in the developmental space in this lifetime where it's an opportunity for us to reclaim that? I do absolutely believe that, and that's my personal belief and knowing through the work that I've been doing with spirit. But if you assume that you came in and you had loads of overlays on your blueprint. None of us came in with a divine blueprint. So we've got overlays on our blueprint from past life, all of those open doors, all of those experiences kind of imprinted on our blueprint as we've come in. So we've come in with an incarnated light body that's cluttered. And because many of us came in not really having an awareness of ourselves as an energy being, we had all of these doors and windows open. And so all sorts of stuff kind of came in. So those people who were on this path of basically growing up spiritually and coming into our adulthood and taking full responsibility are in the process of clearing out, to start with, everything that isn't you.
Yeah.
Everything that isn't you. And if you go from the assumption that my house is cluttered and I get to clear it out, whilst you're in that cluttered state, no, you may not know where your boundaries are and whether you're fully in your power. It's not until you've got to such a level of clearing that you have a good grasp on your divine blueprint,
Yeah,
that you can then go, yeah, something's off. When you then, it's like it's suddenly a bad smell in my kitchen. If you don't start from a clean space, you don't know there's a bad smell in your kitchen because your nose blind to it. Does that make sense?
Yeah, I totally agree with you. Also, just simple things in a human level. I mean, if you know someone's, if you feel manipulated or you feel someone's making you do stuff against your will, or you just feel like you're not able to speak up. I mean, all these things are indicators that your boundaries are not strong. And they're just things that you probably just have to look at individually as to why, and fix them and heal them with some inner work.
And it's just put that the universe can have your back, but that doesn't let you escape your lessons. I found the most challenging part to acknowledge for me was that she felt betrayed for a very long time until she got some distance from it and saw the value of it. And I think that's one of the key things, is allowing yourself to be neutral. Having that space. Repeat the bad smell in the kitchen again. Explain the analogy a little bit more, please. Okay. If your kitchen is untidy and you haven't emptied the bin, so you came into the house and the house already had like a pervasive smell because of the last people who were in there, say. Until you completely clean everything out and you get rid of that smell and you get rid of all of the residue energy that's overlaid into that room, you haven't got a clean slate. You're not starting from a clean slate. None of us are starting from a clean slate. It's not until you clear out everything and you take out the rubbish and you get rid of that residual background smell that you can actually then recognize when a new bad smell comes in. And that new bad smell can be somebody's bad mood, a lost soul. It can be any, from an energetic perspective, can be anything. But until you've cleared your deck a bit and you make the assumption that actually my house is untidy, I've got to go in and do a deep clean, you can't know who you truly are. No,
that's right. Yeah. I mean, you don't know, you've got to know your default. You've got to know your baseline. Otherwise you're constantly going to have different influences in your aura, in your circle, because you're used to that. If it's not one influence, one goes, another one comes in, and for you that becomes a norm. You never actually get to know who you truly are.
Yeah. I mean, I was at a point in my childhood where I was so tied into, I'm a service soul, I'm here to help other people, to make them feel good, I don't matter, that somebody asked me my name once and I said, what do you want it to be?
Gosh. Wow.
So I was so used to not mattering that it actually got to that level for me. And that was in my teens. But that was a massive wake-up call for me, because it was like, whoa, okay. Yeah. Seriously, that's not a good place to be, living my life from, because I'm not living my life. I'm living everybody else's life. Yeah. So until I stripped out all of those belief patterns, those, soul contracts with people, whatever it was, past life stuff, all of those distortions that were overlaying me being me in this life.
Yeah. And being honest with yourself, because, this thing of service, it's like, that in itself is a protection, isn't it? Because it's a good thing. It's almost justifiable. Well, I'm being of service. So to break that and go through, you need to be brave. You need to be brave.
And I mean, a lot of people who are on these calls, a lot of people who are doing the work are empaths. And again, it's a gift and it's a curse, because we feel everything so much, and that's one way that we can assist people, that we are then completely open doors to other people, to having other people's energy transposed onto us.
And taking quite a massive responsibility that's not yours.
Sounds like the clean slate kitchen analogy is a constant of clearing out, cleaning through life, the layers coming into this life to clear, working on deeper understanding. Yes, absolutely.
But once you clear it, it doesn't need to get messy again. It doesn't need to be a life journey. Get to that point, do it, and then actually life takes on a whole new level, much easier. Everything's clear, clarity, much more manageable. It's never perfect, but you don't have layers of stuff hanging around that you don't need. It's smoother. That's when you really get into flow.
Yeah, absolutely. And one of the key things is when you're coming from that clean slate perspective, and what your energy feels like when it's just you can identify if in your moments of weakness, and again, no judgment, because we're all going to have them, because we're having a human experience. So when you have those moments of weakness and something comes in, you can deal with it so much quicker and faster. But equally, your universe, going back to what Anne said, your universal self doesn't need to bring those experiences so much into your field. You can then attract more of what you actually want, that vibrationally resonates with you. You're not going to have those experiences where somebody's kind of trying to get you to do something that doesn't resonate, because you just go, no. I'm not playing in that game anymore. I'm not engaging in that.
You reach a point of equilibrium. Do you know what I mean? And it's like it's not difficult to maintain. Then it's just a speck of dust or a little thing. It's gone. As you said to me, if someone had tackled my spell right at the beginning, he said I got myself into the whole massive big soup and cauldron of mess. 17 years later. This is exactly the same thing. Get to the point where your energy is clean, and then you actually can maintain it quite quickly, quite easily. It's not, it is you become actually more powerful, because the clearer your energy, the more clarity you have, the less chaos there is, the more light comes in. And I think the more peaceful and balanced you are in everything, and then you begin to really have sound judgment in what you're doing and your boundaries and all the rest of it. Responsibility comes in, and real growth happens.
Yeah, absolutely. Gosh, I'm aware of the time. We've been chatting for an hour and 20 minutes. I hope this conversation has been interesting and has been beneficial to you all. For me, it's a core part of my life, my work, my journey. So whether it's black magic, whether it is a consciously created curse or spell that is being placed on you, or just the day-to-day stuff that we're all encountering. It's the same when you step into that awareness that everything is energy. You are energy, and allow yourself to take responsibility without judgment and really set your boundaries firmly and clean your house. Then we can navigate these energies. We can navigate this reality around us and impact it from a higher perspective. And for me, that's what it's all about. We do the work on ourselves, we do the work for ourselves, but it benefits everybody.
Yeah. Take your personal authority back, and your sovereign self. You're a sovereign being, treat others that way, and you'll receive it back.
Absolutely. Yeah. And this is the lifetime. I think it was Louise who mentioned about the past lives. I mean, I could go on about what Spirit has shared in terms of the entrapped, well, I will be tomorrow actually, the entrapped incarnation cycle. Well, we've broken free of that. We're not bouncing straight back into incarnation, holding all of the baggage from all of the other lifetimes anymore. When we transition from this lifetime, we go back and get the full download. We then choose whether or not we're going to come back in or not, and whether it's into this physical reality or another. So yes, if you make the assumption, I have come in with all kinds of baggage, I moved into a house and it's got everyone else's junk in it still. So basically you go from that perspective, you just keep clearing house, and it may at the beginning feel like, oh my God, this is never ending. But sometimes you hit that sweet point. That was the reality for me. Would you agree with that, Jade?
Yeah, I think you do hit that sweet point. Look, again, coming back to universal law, we also, we can't escape from the fact that, there's always a swing, isn't there? I mean, things are not going to be bad forever. But it can't happen. Just there's, we have the law of vibration, the law of rhythm, duality. You got to stay in the middle of the pendulum, then okay, that's fine. But you are going to swing here, and if you swing there, you're going to swing back. You can't escape it. You can't always have the negative. Then you wouldn't have a positive. Likewise, things are not always going to be great because you have to swing back. But if you can try to stay in the middle and have your house clean, as you said, Lou, then you can go a bit that way, and maintain quite a steady sweet spot. This is what you do. You have to balance the laws out, and I think this is the bigger work that comes through when you move beyond the law of attraction. You get into those bigger experiences which are traumatic, or hopefully not always traumatic, but there's a learning curve. That's why you have it, so that you can eventually reach a sweet spot for a longer time.
And I think the most key thing is you are the creator of your own reality.
Totally.
And you're never going to create something that is more than you can handle.
Totally. Absolutely. Yeah, exactly.
You may feel pushed up to your own limit, but again, that's you. Growth means pushing the boundaries,
challenging yourself. Yes, because you can do it.
Yeah. So it's that belief in your own power. It's that belief that you are a powerful creator being, and that this is about me reclaiming my power, acknowledging that nothing outside of me has any power over me.
Totally, absolutely, 100%.
Unless I allow it. But you can take yourself, because that's the universal self, will give you these lessons and can push you right up close.
Yeah.
But you take yourself to your limits sometimes, but you're never going to push yourself beyond that which you are actually capable of managing.
I totally agree. And I also believe that there is support in the universe independent of you. Okay, one thing is, I know we said, oh well, we are the universe and everything, but then there are energies which are there to help you, and you do have support no matter how bad things get. There is universal assistance around your energy field, to help you along the path, through your challenging times.
And they can look a number of different ways as well.
Yes, true.
They can be in the physical, and they can be beyond the physical.
Yeah, very true.
Again, it's just reaching out, not being afraid to reach out and ask for help.
Yeah, you have to ask, don't you? I mean, you have to acknowledge it as well. Then nothing's coming in necessarily.
Hello,
without you asking.
One of my little helpers is now wanting to come and have a little cuddle.
Oh, joining in the conversation.
Yeah. Right. So thank you, everybody, for joining in with this conversation. It's been absolutely fantastic. Thank you so much, Jade, for joining us today and for joining us this season and introducing your beautiful energy to the audience. It's been really special to have you on the show today, and a topic that I love.
Oh, thank you. Thank you so much. Been great. Great. Like you said, gave me an experience to get it all out. So yeah, no, fantastic. Thank you. And thank you again, everybody, for listening, and future listeners, and all your questions. And reach out if you ever need any more help or whatever. Yeah.
So
thank you.
Jade's contact details will be. This is one of my little helpers.
Gorgeous.
Jade's contact details will be underneath the YouTube video, also underneath the audio recording on SoundCloud, and they're also on the emails that go out as well. So if you do feel like you want to reach out and connect in with Jade, feel free to do so. Thank you, everybody, for being on the show, asking all your questions, being interactive with the conversation. It's absolutely wonderful. I love that. And I shall see you tomorrow for the last live call. It is a conversation with me. And it's basically all around a lot of what the other topics of these conversations have been around. And a big thing is that we are now in this space of being able to completely download after this lifetime our experiences. So we're not coming back in trailing all of these energetic signatures of past lives behind us. So this is the
hallelujah.
Yeah, this is the lifetime to clean house, to clear all that rubbish out that's ours from other lifetimes or other people's, and really get to know who we are, because it is such a blessed life. We may not have the fast cars or the big house or anything else that we may, a human may think we want, but just to know who you are, to know thyself fully, and to be in that place where you're not feeling completely influenced by everything outside of you. That is what we came here to experience, and that is what life is really all about, isn't it?
100%.
Yes. You just have to take the lesson from animals, because they are totally who they are. They're my inspiration. Absolutely. So thank you, everybody. I shall see you all again tomorrow for the last call. I look forward to that. I look forward to sharing space with you again. Jade, thank you so much. It's been an absolute joy. And yeah, have a great rest of your day, everybody. Take care.